Kaminga, essentially in a contract summer, naturally, we've seen a ton of workout videos from Kuminga working on his game and those look out, here he comes, oh, he's going to be a problem videos from Kuminga. And apparently he's doing 3-a-days. Can't keep him out of the gym. Now, obviously, there's a ton of value in focusing all your energy into something like that and the discipline it builds. And not to mention, it keeps you from being distracted. All that time being spent in the gym, you're not focused on things that are going to hurt you, right? But I think by now, most of us have heard of this 80-20 rule. It's very popular in the military and in the business world. And essentially, it represents that, 20% of your work put in is going to represent 80% of your success. And so essentially, you've got to figure out what that 20% is and what's going to make you ultimately effective in your work field or on the basketball court. And look, I get it. A lot of this stuff is for the gram, right? They're going to show the flashy highlights when Kuminga's working out and he's spending hours in there doing certain things. But I am a little concerned that Kuminga doesn't know what that 20% is. Right? And a lot of these videos, like the one that was going around in the last 48 hours, is basically like a choreographed dance, And again, it looks good for the gram. I understand that. But I think for Kuminga, he needs to feel not only some physical resistance, but I think the drills have to be more dynamic where he actually has to make decisions and it's not a 1, 2, 3 step choreographed workout. And when you look at, his hang dribble and the hezzies in particular, the reality is a big hang hesitation move is really only effective when the defender and teams are worried about you pulling up and shooting. And I'm not sure that that's going to be the threat for Kaminga quite yet, right? But I think one advantage he does have when it comes to getting in his bag and his moves are the defender is going to be concerned with him getting downhill. So they're going to give him a little bit of a cushion and give him some room to dance with the ball. But, again, if he's not a true threat to pull up for the jump shot, I know he does it, but it's not what you're trying to take away. I think his moves have to be more focused on creating angles, right? And you look at Kawhi. Really, we've thrown this out here for a while, Kawhi being the blueprint for Kuminga. And you think about Kawhi, not the biggest of bags, right? But what does he do? He gets his body on the defender, he gets to his spot, and then he unleashes that nasty pump fake game. Jordan really started it, right? Kobe took it to another level. And Kawhi, you could argue, is even more devastating with, you pump the defender and then when they're coming down, you rise back up. But there's a lot of nuance to the timing of these pump fakes. And we already know Kuminga has a really good pump fake when he gets to the rim, right? And he plants off 2 and then he can go up and finish. But it's different to pump fake at the nail and in the mid-range and still have your rhythm to shoot that shot. And Kawhi, again, he has different rhythms with it, right? He'll give you a quick one. He'll bring it down. He can change the pace of the pump fakes to keep you off balance and either get to the line or rise up for that midi. And, Kawhi, the advantage that I think he does have over Kuminga is his release is higher. It's above the head. But Kuminga, I could argue, is maybe the more explosive athlete, probably not as strong. But I still see a lot of similarities in their attributes. And so this dancing and hanging and hezzying with the ball, again, it's all good for the gram, but I'm not sure if it's part of his 20%. Let me elaborate a little more on the resistance and dynamicness of a workout with a player. Resistance meaning you watch these defenders and they're, listen, there is a point where you're just being a good teammate, as they say, right? And you're just kind of being a dummy defender because you know what the move is already or what they're trying to work on. But he needs to feel and absorb physical contact. I'd like to see guys being more into his body and making him have to play through and off of contact, as well as when I mean dynamic, the defender should change. He part of the training is making live reads of counters. And if you know what the move is every time, right, you're not training that. And I have no doubt Kuminga's handle has gotten better. His shooting has gotten better in a vacuum. as individual skills, but it's how you tie it together on the court. You see it a lot in MMA, right? Where a guy, he works on his boxing, and then he works on his wrestling, and he works on his jiu-jitsu, the three main categories. How do you tie them together in a fight and understand when to use them, when to back off, when to clinch, when to try to go down, right? That's part of the training element of tying it all together. And when you have these choreographed sequences of one move and the same drill over and over again with the same defender, you're not training how to apply it in real game. Again, we know there's plenty of more hours in the gym that we're not seeing, and hopefully Kuminga is putting in some time on tying the skill sets together and going through some actual real resistance rather than, this flashy stuff here. It's, I was watching this kid train in the gym the other day. Me and my daughter were shooting, and he was about 14 or 15, and the trainer had him coming down on the wing, and he'd get into like a crossover move, and then he would cross step. He would step with his outside foot in and then bounce back into like this double step back move. He didn't make one of the shots. I watched like 10 reps of it. And I'm watching him and the kid's off balance. He's off balance. And again, where's your 20%? What is the 20% of your work that's going to matter the most? And it was so clear for a kid that age, because I asked the trainer, I was like, why aren't you having him punch off his inside foot so he can punch to it? When you cross, you're throwing him off balance. And the trainer like redid it. He's like, no, that's cash. That's cash. And I was like, maybe for you, dog. Maybe for you at 20 years old with a much stronger core and base. The 20% for that kid, he just needs to work on playing in his hips instead of his back. A lot of younger players, they don't sink their hips, right? They bend their back and then squaring up and being on balance. But, they wanted to do the flashy fun stuff. And you see it everywhere. I highly recommend one of JJ Redick's, before he went off to coaching on his podcast, he had a sit down with Ray Allen, and listening to he and Ray Allen talk about shooting mechanics and shooting, it's at the highest of levels. And I really liked what Ray had to say about training his sons. He said, if I'm going to look at a kid or help him out, I have them just shoot for 20 or 30 minutes and move around. And I just look at how they move, because you don't want to have an athlete trying to move how they naturally can't. They're naturally going to try to shoot the ball and move how their body says. And I think a lot of trainers come in with the idea of, we're going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to mimic this. Does that player have those physical attributes to even do that? Now, back to Kaminga, we know he's got all the physical attributes in the world, and that's why it almost makes it more tempting to try all this flashy stuff and all this dynamic stuff, where his 20%, I think, is just going to be the pump fake, right? And using his body, getting very comfortable with his handle. There's a difference between moves and handle, right? Draymond has an elite handle. He just doesn't have any moves, right? Where you look at like Jordan Poole, an elite move set, but he doesn't really have an elite handle, as we know, right? And so I think Kaminga, his handle is much more important than his moves, and his handle dealing with contact and getting to his spots and then learning the nuances of that pump fake game. But all in all, I'm excited. Look, I put this out specifically, who knows who's watching this and where it reaches, but to help. I'm excited for Kuminga. I'm not trying to put down his work ethic, but it's kind of been a topic of conversation and seeing, and he's not the only one. I'm focusing on Kuminga because we know, this is a Warriors channel, right? But this is almost all the young guys in the league, right? I guarantee you, if you got footage, you never will get it, of a Kawhi workout, it ain't going to be glamorous. It's going to be probably very tedious and repetitive in the basic stuff. But all in all, I'm excited to see him take another step because we know he is putting in the work. Now, WNBA is back. It's crazy how they go take a break for the Olympics right now, the second half of the season. I'm excited for that. The Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese story, teams making the playoffs, a lot of drama in the WNBA. But right now you can take advantage of an Angel Reese special, 0.5 points higher or lower, right? So it's a give me that you can add to other things here as we kind of start to figure out statistically what's going on and maybe some of the trades. I know the trade deadline is, I think, the 20th, but I'm excited for them to start headed towards the playoff pushes. Got a big UFC this weekend. You can also take advantage with underdog Duplessis versus Adesanya. I'm looking at Dracus's takedowns, 3.5. I don't know about that one, but again, use the code Alchemy in the description and you can get a 50% bonus on your first deposit up to $250. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.